The topic that I was asked to speak about is acceptance and forgiveness. You're aware what the topic is? No? Surprise! Acceptance and forgiveness. That's what the text said that I received. And I thought, I don't know what was meant by this. I'll ask the person who gave it. So there's still not clarity for me what is expected, to be honest. The retreat in Gitanagari, the theme was empathic communication. Empathy is a very similar word to compassion. We discussed compassion has a cognitive aspect, that is, you understand something about another person. There's an affective component. You feel something about the other person. It could be happiness or sorrow. It could be you feel something. There's an affective generally means there's some difficulty they're going through, so you have some feelings about the difficulty that they're going through. And there's a motivational aspect. There's three parts. You want to do something. Empathy similarly includes all three. Empathy, the very word, is more addressing the affective side, what you feel. But feelings can be misplaced. Compassion can be misplaced. If you don't really know what the other person is going through, you can try to do something that's with good intention, but it misses the mark altogether. So a cognitive aspect is also needed. And therefore there's the communication part, and that is striving to understand what the other person is going through. And what the other person is going through can go more deeply than what it appears to be, either to them or to you. Meaning, somebody says something hurtful, mean, or inappropriate, and you may feel something. But the feel something may not even be commensurate or on the same level as what was said. Something gets triggered and you go way over there. It's not connecting to reality. In some cases, if somebody says something hurtful, what is said may be hurtful, but what's behind the person saying something hurtful is pain that they're undergoing, or that they've felt, or some trauma that they've been through, and they're like protecting their space. So really what's behind it is they're in pain, and they're lashing out or doing something to keep their space, keep protected. This recently happened to me. Pretty recently. Somebody rah rah rah, and then rah 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 rah. I was in a program. My phone was off, but they called 5 times. Rah 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 rah. rah, 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 rah. And the fifth one was, I had childhood trauma. I mean, they didn't use that language. I had childhood trauma, and all of those emotions from my childhood trauma is now rising again. Those feelings from and so I'm, I said some things I shouldn't have said. I don't really mean, and please forgive me, and don't take them seriously. And I had, in playing back the recorded messages, because I was in a program, I didn't hear any of them till they went one to the next, to the next, to the next. I understood that right from the very beginning, because the tone was pain, and what was being said wasn't connecting to reality at all. They were just feeling pain, and they were expressing pain to someone who just happened to be a punching bag that was proximate, and they just were punching. So I didn't take any of that stuff seriously, because I understood there's something behind it. So that's an example of cognitive and affective. Affective means I understand what their feelings are. I'm concerned about their feelings. And it's not just the hurtful things that they said, but it's the pain that's behind those hurtful things that they said. And so then acceptance, one part of the acceptance message, this is just like useful for devotees, this acceptance thing. It's useful for non-devotees too, but it's in the life of devotion, there's duality out there. The place where we live is a place of duality. Sometimes matra spaushas tu konteya sitoshna sukha dukkha da. Sometimes and sometimes. It was raining every day in upstate New York, and then all of a sudden the sun came out. And it was really hot, and they got in a car that had no air conditioning. And what are you going to do? Let me out. Or you just, okay, we'll roll the window down and be hot, because air conditioning doesn't work. And then the GPS, we were coming from upstate New York, coming down 287, and it had us exit and then go back the other direction on 287, and then exit and then go the other direction on 287, and it did it 3 times. And my phone and the driver's phone were saying the same thing. There was a glitch in the system, I guess, but a different lady was saying the same thing. So we had to use another system besides the GPS. So we could the GPS bonkers, but just okay, we need another system because they have a glitch in their system. It happens. It does happen, and it was happening. So there are some things. This is just little examples. There's some things that just are outside of your control. And accepting is, you just accept them. It's something I learned from stress management courses. From time to time, in different venues, particularly corporate venues, it's one of their favorite ones, is stress management, because it's stressful in the corporate workplace. So I've agreed to do that from time to time if it's explicit that I can speak from a spiritual perspective. Stress management from a spiritual perspective. They say, sure. So, for laughter sake, I said the best way to do stress management is to not have any. That's called Vaikuntha. No anxiety. But just in case you're not in Vaikuntha and you're in the place of Kunta and you're like identifying with it, then you have to manage it. But the best is to go to the spiritual position. And that's the best stress management. Because even if there is stressful situations surrounding you, you're not stressed. Because you have shelter. And we'll come back to that topic towards the end, but let's go back down to stress management. So one of the rules of stress, this is just like in the field itself, there's this, the acceptance message goes like this. Stress is, life throws rocks at you. You take the rock and you toss it in the air and you can feel sad. Why did this happen to me? There's a godbrother. I just found this out on the car ride. He went for a walk. He lives in Alachua. He went for a walk. When he came back, the house was burned down. And all that was left was, his melted car in the driveway. All he had left was the clothes on his back. It was a rented place, and the person that owned the place that he rented from didn't have insurance. His computer, his everything, his clothing, his shoes, it's gone. It just happened. And life threw some rock at him. And he's tossing it in the air thinking, I've tried to do so much service to Krishna, why is Krishna letting this happen to me? It's a natural thought. He said he's battling that thought. Because here's the stress management. This isn't like Hare Krishna, take shelter of Krishna message, but the stress management message is, there's nothing you can do about it. The rock just was thrown at you. You weren't expecting it. And you toss it in the air and consider, okay, what are your options? You don't try to change the situation because it's the air conditioning doesn't work and it's hot out. Or the GPS isn't working and it's sending you in a loop and, okay, what's our options? And then if it's just like something hurtful that somebody says, the devotional option is, in what way can I be of service to this person? Because obviously they're in a lot of pain. Now in this particular case, this person that was ranting and saying harsh things, my suggestion was, there are persons, devotees and non-devotees alike, that are skilled in helping people resolve past trauma. So some childhood trauma that she had been through, and I didn't ask what it was. It's not my profession. But some people, it's their profession. They can know how to help. You can't take away that whatever it was that happened in her childhood, but the trauma of what happened in her childhood, that can be healed, at least addressed. There's people that understand that procedure, just like physical therapy. I got a meniscus tear in now both knees. So I've got a physical therapist and do 20 of those and 15 of those and build the muscle structure around where the support from the meniscus was there that isn't there anymore. So you build the muscle structure. So it works. It works. So what are your options when something unexpected happens? And then depending upon what the options are, do something that's within your capacity to do, and you do some of that. So at least in terms of overcoming negative emotion, it's essential. Acceptance is part of overcoming it, because we're devotees, but sometimes we forget. We're doing the behaviors of a devotee, but we're not connecting to our heart yet. And before you fully connect with your heart, that is to say, I am Krishna's tiny. From the heart means Krishna is to be pleased. There's a whole explanation, a whole morning class on this topic in Gita Nagari. From the heart, that was the title of the presentation, can be understood by Rupa Goswami's definition of bhakti. Anyabhilasha shunyam jnana karma janavratam anukulyena krishna anushilanam bhaktir uttama. It can be understood from the heart, can be understood from that. Because bhakti, similarly, has an affective part and has a motivational part. The motivational part of bhakti is Krishna should be pleased. Krishnanushilanam. Krishna should be pleased. And I'm not there yet, but I'm cultivating Anushilanam. Krishna Anushilanam. It's okay. It's okay. It's an interesting configuration over here. We have balcony seats over on this side. You want a little? I'll share a little Sanskrit lesson that I learned. I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, but I learned something from Jiva Goswami to understand that verse of Rupa Goswami. Jiva Goswami comments, you need to know the dhatu of Anushilanam. And the dhatu, the verbal root, is sheel. Sheel. And he says, sheel has a non-moving and a moving component. And it's probably something to do with a Sanskrit grammar rule that I'm not familiar with. So the moving part is the body, the senses, the mind. The mind is definitely moving, not at all stationary. And the mood with which you do that, that's also moving. And then there's a non-moving part. And that's the deepest held conviction. So for within bhakti is Krishna should be pleased. Krishna's pleasure is everything. The body may do this, the mind may do that, the mood may be whatever it is. And to align those moving parts with the non-moving part. That's essential. That Krishna should be pleased. Just like, the mind, that's a moving part. He gives the example. Kamsa. His mind was fixed on Krishna, but wasn't bhakti. Because it wasn't, the essence was missing. The pleasing Krishna part was missing. That wasn't his conviction, please Krishna. So, from the heart for a devotee means in the deepest place within us, there's this already existing intention to be in loving service to Krishna. In fact, it's not just inside us, because we're Hare Krishna devotees. It's inside every living entity. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sajjakabanoi Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte. So, Shravanadi, beginning with Shravana, the hearing process, Shuddha Chitte, consciousness becomes Shuddha. And in succession, it unfolds. So the deepest mature stage, the sadhya stage, is Krishna Prema. That's the mature stage. And the beginning stage is notional. That's us. And our notion is compromised because the mind is not pure. And so we want to please Krishna and me. And there's a good part of me, and there are some places where my being pleased and Krishna's being pleased intersect, so we have a good time together, me and Krishna. And there's some things that are displeasing to me. Those are those negative things that the life throws a rock at you. And sometimes the rock keeps coming, even from the same source or from a few sources, and that's the nature of the place where we are. Bhakti means my life is to please Krishna. So when you start throwing the rock in the air and considering what are my options, it's only in this slice of the pie options what's pleasing to Krishna. Because there's lots of options, and some of them aren't going to be at all pleasing to Krishna. Like get back, or snarl back, or go upset the apple cart of the life of that other person, or go speak bad things about the other person, or get angry, or there's options. But you just narrow it down to options that are pleasing to Krishna, because that's the unmoving part. And there may not be some clear path specific to the rock that was thrown at you, but at least you have some options of where you can engage in activity that's pleasing to Krishna, and do that. For the purpose of pleasing Krishna, and that's for the purpose of distracting your mind from the hurt of the negative emotion, or whatever. So there's on this topic of acceptance, there's acceptance of myself. That's where it starts. Like I'm Krishna's servant. I'm in a body. Describe the bodily situation. These many years old. This gender. This socioeconomic, whatever it is. This family relation. But that's not who we are. That's all the moving things. But then there's the non-moving thing. I'm tiny part and parcel of Krishna. Inherent within is the intention to satisfy Krishna. It's already there. It's not matured. It's not even awakened too much. I'm doing all these behaviors and not paying attention to who I am. But by paying attention to who I am, that helps me understand who I am. And if I accept this is who I am, then comes another acceptance. Out there is duality. And sometimes. It's the nature of the place. Sometimes people honor us and we know it's not deserved. Some people dishonor us, we know that it's not deserved. It's not us, it's the nature of the place. It's a place of duality. Sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's light, sometimes it's dark. Sometimes it's this and sometimes it's that. And that's just the way it is. And that's part of the acceptance. That's the way it is. My business is not to make it the way that it isn't. Then you try to manage the problem, and you forget who you really are, and you forget that who you really are in a deeper sense is, I'm meant for Krishna's pleasure. That's who I am. Listen carefully when you hear the description of the part and parcel of Krishna explanation that when Prabhupada gives it. Why do we exist? Krishna is complete. He doesn't need us. So it's not like we can just be extinguished and Krishna wouldn't have any problem with that because he doesn't need us. It's not like that. We exist for the pleasure of Krishna. That's our existence. And there's unlimited living entities meant for the unlimited variegatedness of Krishna's pleasure. And their proper alignment with who we are is to be situated in that mood of the moving part, the pleasing Krishna part. And here's a circumstance that, so there's acceptance of who we are, and there's acceptance of the circumstance. And then you put the two together, and you consider how to best serve Krishna. Sounds nice. And then to do it's another thing. But it's an essential part of learning how to live one's life as a devotee. It's right at the very beginning. Matras parshas tu konti. So the initial message is you tolerate. Tang satiksha swabharata. Tolerate because I have this expectation. What's that? I'm supposed to be the enjoyer. And hey, the AC doesn't work, and the GPS is sending us in a loop, and someone is sending me, hurt messages, and rah, 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 and I'm not having fun. My house burned down. Nothing, except the clothes on my back. Now, the blessing is he has the clothes on his back and he has a life. He has the wisdom of Krishna consciousness that he's received for, some number of years. 35, 40 years or whatever it is. The soul has, count your blessings. Some people are in the house and the house burns down. It's insufficient just to go to the other side of the pan scale and say, these are good things in my life. It's really about our relationship with Krishna. That's the essence. And the service mood unto Krishna. How can I best serve Krishna in this circumstance that I've accepted? Now that I've accepted, I can be fixed in Buddha Yoga. I can be thinking the best way to serve Krishna in this circumstance is. And if I'm not in that consciousness, if I haven't accepting the circumstance doesn't mean you become just a pacifist. It means your mind is clear. And you can be in the mood of service to Krishna and act in a way with far greater clarity than if you aren't in the mood of service to Krishna, and deal with a situation with much better effectiveness and clarity and Krishna's empowerment, because of the mood of being in service to Krishna. You're the internal energy instead of the external energy. So acceptance doesn't mean non-action. Acceptance means from the accepting who I am, I'm meant for Krishna's service, that's who I am. And here's a circumstance that is what it is, I've accepted it. Now the best way to serve Krishna in this circumstances is. And you may not even have the answer, but you're in a much better position to find out the best way to serve Krishna if you ask the question than if you don't ask the question. And you're thinking something other than that. And a little other sharing. It's not what happened this past weekend in Girinagri, so, but I found out from our book distributors, well, let's go a step back. I made a challenge to our book distributor. I mean, not just our book distributors, to our devotees in general. Reach the hearts and the minds of the Western population. And I could get on the soapbox and speak it for 20 minutes, but I would do that from time to time in different places. The non-resident Indian portion of the population in America is an important part of the population of America. And there's a vast number of persons who are in America that we're not effectively reaching. We need a strategy to reach those people, because it's the desire of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's the desire of our founder Acharya. We're insufficiently fulfilling the mission of our founder Acharya and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Good, but insufficient. So, like that. So, one of the things the book distributors decided to do was, let's go during the summer to venues where it's Western people. Not the India grocery store and set up because they gave us permission. We meet all the Indian population and sell books. And it's easy. But where it's not so easy. So they found, one of the report back was there's a lot of interested people, and one of the things that they're really interested in is meditation. They asked, do you have any books on meditation? So I heard it twice. Actually, I heard it from hearing it once, then I heard it again. It just took, and so it's not isolated. It's out there in that population we're not interacting with so much. Insufficiently, let's say that. So we huddled together, and a group of people put together some 4-part series on the art of meditation, with the intention that these can be used to bring Western audiences together in a relevant and relatable form, the art of meditation. So one of those 4 is overcoming negative emotions. Art of meditation / overcoming negative emotions. And it's an industry. In the medical field, depression is the fastest growing portion of the medical field. Not just the pharmaceuticals, but the incidence of depression is statistically spiking like anything. And it's not just in this country. I found, because I visit China, it's spiking in China. No surprise. It was very stressful. This last time that I was there, I mean, an anecdote. With a person who was coordinating my visit in one city, worked for a big company, won't name the company, and while I was there, one of their leading executives jumped from the seventh story of the building, and there's all these big buildings in China, and they splattered on the sidewalk. And so the company decided we have to do something for our administrators and staff that are stressed. So they created a mandatory meditation session. And it's all over the place without anecdotes and statistics. 100 million people are clinically distressed, or what a distress disorder in China. Something like that. That's a lot of people. And that's the ones that report it. So I this is a little anecdote, but you'll get the picture. I went to a place in China I've never been before. Try to find it on a map. It's Chengdu. And the reason I went there is there's a devotee who's a yoga instructor, and they have completed Bhakti Shastri, and they recommended to their the yoga studio owner, let's study Bhagavad Gita. And the yoga studio owner said, great. So they've been studying Bhagavad Gita, and then I came in after some time. They've already been studying Bhagavad Gita. And so the yoga studio owner was given a list of topics, and one of the topics that she selected was overcoming anxiety, art of meditation. And at the very beginning of the class, I asked her, could you explain so I can connect with what it is that you want? Why did you select this topic? She stood up, she looked around the room, she said, I have a very close relationship with the 40 staff members that are here. They all had uniforms, the teachers this uniform, the hospitality people that uniform, the office people that uniform. And they're all her staff, not clients, her staff. And knowing them very well, I know that they have an expectation for happiness in life. And I have found that there's a lot of anxiety because reality doesn't match their expectations for happiness in life. And I think it has something to do with they don't really know what happiness is. And so I'd like them to benefit from hearing how to overcome the negative emotion of anxiety through the art of meditation. I thought, wow, I'd like to have this lady as my boss, and I'm a yoga teacher, yoga staff person. She really cares about her students, and she wants some assistance to help her students find out what real happiness is and how to connect with what real happiness is, and it's inside, it's not out there. So we had 3 classes. She was moved by was the discussion in the classes. So she wanted a meeting after, some other time, place, and circumstance with a translator there. And she said, from the time that I was a little girl, I knew I had a mission in life. And I wanted to connect with that mission in life. So I was told, do well in school. So I did really well in school. And some time passed, I realized, that's not my mission in life. And then somebody said, you should make lots of money. So okay, I got really good and made lots of money. He didn't say it quite like that, but almost. And then I realized that wasn't my mission in life either. And then somebody said, you're a leader, be a leader. So she said, yeah, I'm a leader, let me become a good leader. So I did that for a while, and I realized, that's not my mission in life. And then it was, I should serve other people. So I've been doing that for quite some time, and now I'm at the place where that's not the fullness of my mission in life. So, can you shed any light on what I should do next? It's a setup. But I had to keep it really simple because we're in China. So I said, you're a teacher by nature, but you can only teach what's inside. So your mission, the next stop on the train ride is to know who you are. You've gotten some ideas of who you're not, but who you are is still waiting. So that's a next stop on the mission of life train. And two other things, without how I said it, the Maha Mantra in Bhagavad Gita. Over here is this Bhakti Shastri person, she's your staff member, and engage in understanding Bhagavad Gita, because the answer to your mission in life question is in Bhagavad Gita. And it's different for different people, but the message is there, because your mission is, there's the universal, and then there's the customized one. So that's this acceptance of who you are message. And the acceptance of who you are can be shallow, or a little deeper, just keep going deeper. For a devotee, a practicing devotee, that's us, we're at different stages in our spiritual trajectory. Most likely, all of us assembled here, we've been at this for a number of lifetimes. Most likely. And here we are today. We are wherever we are. So we accept wherever we are, and accept that we're not there yet. We haven't achieved a clear understanding of the mission of life. We have some idea. We have some idea of what it's not. We have some idea what it is, but we have some distance more to go. And if you want to complete this cycle of birth and death program and not have to become a teenager again, I'm saying that because dealing with teenagers they're really such a struggle. Whew. Anyway, I know I don't want to have to go through it again. But I don't remember the life in the womb of mother, but I remember being a teenager, and it's not nice. And dealing with teenagers today. Whew. So, and if you have one, you know what I'm talking about. It's not easy. So that we don't have to keep doing this again and again, and however many, who knows how many lifetimes, we have to know who we really are, and a deeper level than we know today. And that's this acceptance. And then there's the, what you do about the duality world in which we live. And it's the duality world. It's not going to be, whatever the notion of it's always going to be nice kind of an idea. That's not the place. So now, given the place, in the place of duality, and we have our lessons to understand who we are, and we have a service to do for other entities that are also on that journey. What can we be? What if you take the position of Krishna's servant? How can we be instruments of the other's journey to Krishna, even they may be going in the wrong direction? Like this person that was going rah 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 rah, rah 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 rah, and then apologizing. Supposing they hadn't apologized, the hurt doesn't go away because they apologized, or doesn't not go away because they didn't apologize. The hurt is there, the pain is there. There's so much pain in this world. Unnecessary, totally unnecessary. Totally unnecessary. We're not meant for pain. We're not meant for breaking rocks. We're meant for freedom. And that's a spiritual acceptance. Just, I've listened about 5 times to a really nice 1975, I think it is, the first New York Rath Yatra. Prabhupada came to New York for the first New York Rath Yatra, and the devotees had arranged for a number of scholars and media people to spend time with Prabhupada. So one of the persons was an Associated Press fellow, reporter. And he had an issue with how Prabhupada is leading. And his issue went on for 35 minutes. I timed it. His issue was, Swamiji, some people say, which means he holds the view, some people say that you discourage your followers from making valuable contributions to make the world a better world in which to live. Swamiji, what do you have to say about that? Prabhupada gave a really simple answer, and he kept repeating it. He said, supposing there's people in a prison, and their activity when they're in the prison is they're given hammers and rocks, and they break rocks or bricks. And somebody comes into the prison and says, you're not meant for breaking rocks, you're meant for a life of freedom. But the people that are in the prison say, how come you're not helping us break rocks? And the man, it went around and around and around and around, and finally Prabhupada turned to the devotees and said, this man is not very intelligent. He's not saying we shouldn't make a valuable contribution to society, make it a better place. Don't be a doctor and don't be a whatever your profession is. But our life is not that. Not who we are. It's not our real mission. It's not the life's mission. Is making this a better place. Making a valuable contribution to make the prison a nice place. There's a life of freedom. And that's the function that Prabhupada was playing amongst his disciples, were his followers. So we live a responsible life in this world, and we're accepting that it's all limited and temporary, whatever it is that we're doing. But it's to help us, to give us facility and opportunity to develop who we really are. Eternal servants of Krishna. And so we're dealing with the temporary, at the same time we're connecting to the eternal. We're in the world, but not of the world. And all these are nice sounding things, except for the fact that, we're not connecting to our heart. We can say those things. To a degree we can do some of the things, But we're not there yet. It's good to know that you're not there yet, and accept that you're not there yet. But then it's also good to accept that's not who you really are, is not there yet. And you continue to strive. When the externals aren't necessarily favorable. Sometimes there's lots of favorable. Sometimes there's lots of unfavorable. And how do you continue when there's lots of unfavorable? Because there's something deeper inside that's who you really are. And when you connect to who you really are, then you're that much closer to ending the cycle of birth and death. Because to know who, Prabhupada speaking, to know who you are is the beginning part. It's Lord Chaitanya's discussion with Sanatana Goswami. Kayami. Not even who you are, but what. Listen carefully to Prabhupada's explaining that section of Chaitanya Charitamrita. He wants to know, what am I? I mean, you can say, who am I? Is personal. But there's, what? I am meant for Krishna's service. That's what the marginal potency is. I'm meant for Krishna's service. And I have options. Not serve Krishna in a mix. And generally, practicing devotees in that mixed space. And we shouldn't be comfortable being in the mixed space. We should be moving towards the unmixed space. Not with a feeling of guilt, or I'm bad, or I'm a failure unless I, get to the squeaky clean position. But for sure, we'll take another birth if we don't. And we're meant to complete our journey in this lifetime. In this lifetime, it's not just like notional. It's meant. That's the mercy that's being extended to us. So, please take it. Abundantly. Please take it. That's Mahaprabhu. Mahavadanyaya. Krishna Prema Pradayate. Please take it. So that's on the acceptance topic. There's other things. Then, forgiveness. Well, you can start with forgiving yourself for how many times have we made this unsteady bhakti decision? I want to improve my bhakti. And I know that this will help me improve my bhakti. And we carefully consider from different angles, this is something really important. And then, the passage of time, we're not doing that something. Or something that we shouldn't be doing, and we do it anyways. We're conditioned. Some devotees feel I'm a failure. Some devotees are puzzled. There's different positions that one can get into. That don't lead to progress in Krishna consciousness. We're meant to progress in Krishna consciousness. So we have to forgive ourselves, pick ourselves up, and take the next step. And then, like a child learning to walk. Shh. Like a child learning to walk. The walking propensity is inside. And little toddler takes some tumbles before the walking propensity comes out. So that's motor skill. But then there's devotional skill, and it's already inside. It's already there. That's Lord Chaitanya's teaching. It's already there. The intention to please Krishna is already there. We just have to uncover it. And that's the bhakti process. And it's not just behaviors, it's the intention to please Krishna. Consciousness. So, forgive yourself and forgive others. We have communities. There was a time when there was not a whole lot happening in central New Jersey. Fast forward over time, there's a lot happening in central New Jersey. And I'm sure those that are in some administrative role have found you get a bunch of people together and there's some friction. No surprise. And life was simpler before there was that friction. I was more peaceful. But those devotees that over a period of time wish to go closer to that position of just being for Krishna's pleasure, those are the devotees that will continue over the years and decades to make the mission of Krishna consciousness what it's meant to be. It's really easy, too easy, to fault find. I learned this as a teenager. Any 2-bit teenager can tell you all the things that are wrong. Just sit with them for a little while. What's wrong? Ram, 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 ram. But I realized as a teenager, where is that teenager that can make things better besides saying things that aren't right? I want to find that person that can make things better. I want to be one of those people. Not just... So, in a community, you get closer to people and you find, what their strengths and their weaknesses are. Their gunas and their doshas. You find those things that you didn't know before you got together. You just thought, here's a smiling face, and then you find they have shortcomings. And then you think, well, I thought I was joining a spiritual organization, and there's the people that do like this, and they're like that, and ran. Complaining and fault finding, and then you get conflicts. Then our managers are busy doing firefighting instead of, other things. So as community members, we need to be forgiving of ourselves and forgiving of others, and instead be in this mood of service because of the acceptance part. I'm meant for being an instrument of Krishna here. He's put me here. Now I could go somewhere else, but I'll take my mind and my baggage with me somewhere else. So it really starts here. And how do I make here more fit to be an instrument of Krishna's will, Krishna's pleasure? If there was, a self-effulgent Uttama Adhikari amongst us, that would bring everybody up. And if I'm not one of them, I need to cultivate becoming more pure so I can be more effective at helping bringing other people up, instead of complaining about what their faults are. It's a nice idea. And then to do it, that's another thing. But that's part of the responsibility of each devotee, be the instrument of Krishna. And we're all given the same, this is an equal opportunity organization. We all have the same opportunity. Adults, children, men, women, we all have different roles, and we have different functions and different capacities and abilities and talents and stuff. We're all meant for making our hearts clean and being in this mood of service to others. We're not responsible for the negative emotions of other people, not responsible for the air conditioning that doesn't work, not responsible for the GPS that's sending me in a loop, but I'm responsible for the choices I make. Let me choose to come closer to being the instrument of Krishna's happiness in the situation I find myself. It's not just for the advanced devotees. It's for the devotees, not just for the sannyasis or for the people that study Prabhupada's books a lot. It's for the mandate is for all of us. The mission of life is for all of us. That's part of the mercy. It's literally for everybody. And each of us, according to our spiritual trajectory, we're able to assimilate this much, or maybe that much. But whatever it is, accept this is my capacity. Let me work for my capacity, then take the next step and take the next step, because I'm on my journey to Krishna. And my position is to be a servant to all the others, according to my capacity. I'm accepting I have my limitations. I'm accepting others have theirs. But the mission is a common mission. We're trying to place Krishna at the center. That's the forgiveness part. Self and others. A little different topic this evening, huh? Just trying to be responsive. Any comments or questions? Yes.
Even if I forgive myself, if the other person is not forgiving.
Other person is not forgiving.
Yeah.
Forgive anyway.
Should I still forgive myself?
Should you still what?
Forgive myself.
Of course. I mean,
it's not dependent on other person.
Yeah, it's your relationship with Krishna and Guru and Krishna. Your relationship with Guru and Krishna. Be well situated in your relationship with.
Understanding makes me forget
Yes.
the past.
Yes.
But if the other person constantly reminds me of unforgiving past, so how do I deal?
Yeah, we have to deal with the external circumstances of our life, but internally, one can be forgiving. That I'm incomplete. I'm imperfect. And it's okay, because there's this intrinsic thing within me, as within all of us, and I'm aware of it to some extent, and I wish to become more aware of it as my life evolves, that there's this intrinsic intention of bringing Krishna pleasure. That's my self-worth. That's who I am. I'm not there yet, but I know it's there. It's not matured. Here's a secular reference, but I found it to be meaningful, so I've been sharing it. Especially I've been sharing it with teenagers. It's a TED Talk, just TED Talk vulnerability. And you'll find there's a lady speaking on that topic. And it's Krishna, it's not Bhagavad Gita verse and chapter. Two people saw it after I mentioned it and said, it's right in Bhagavad Gita. She's not like quoting verse and chapter from Bhagavad Gita, but it's the truth of Bhagavad Gita that she's speaking. And this, so, you're good enough. That's the inside self-acceptance or self-worth or self-forgiveness. And then you can be in different situations of duality, and you don't have to be a hermit or run away or pull yourself in a shell, because there's self-worth. You're part and parcel of Krishna. To Krishna, you're very dear. And other persons, and so as you hold yourself, then you can then extend that to others, because it's within. And as it becomes like palpable in your life, you can touch the lives of others. Which was the message. Did you attend, or did you hear the recordings of that weekend? Anyway, this from the heart, the final slide says it 3 times. When you're able to live like that, you can touch and move the hearts of others in amazing ways. And then we said it 3 times with different graphics in the background. You can touch and move the hearts of others in amazing ways. So it's not like I'm moving the hearts of others. It's just being the instrument of Krishna. When you're in that consciousness, you can be an instrument of Krishna and be totally happy, knowing I'm less than perfect, but Krishna is helping me get closer. And that acceptance, that's our topic, is the acceptance of the relationship with Krishna. Then that's power. Spiritual, not false ego. It's spiritual power. And I can become more readily transformed, and I can be an agent of transformation in others. Anything else? Yes. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question is, how can we start to cultivate acceptance and forgiveness for our families and the communities that we have been brought in, that have brought us up to fear God and His teachings?
To fear God?
Yeah.
Well, interesting question. Well, a couple of things. Maybe we haven't understood what our families and communities have been trying to help us understand. Maybe the recalibration of things needs to be from our side, not necessarily forgiving from the other side. Maybe. And if you accept Krishna as a loving person meant to be served with love, then you can easily achieve. When the acceptance is there, the forgiveness is easily there. Here's a little anecdote. I've heard this from Rabindra Swarup Prabhu. I've heard it 3 times. He was in South Street. That's a little loft preaching center in Philadelphia, downtown, in the university section. So he was attending this program and he was speaking, and a man right in the middle of the lecture started like raising his voice, middle-aged man, saying, I can't accept God. So Rabindra just like stopped the class and said, tell me about that God that you can't accept. And then he went on and said, the God you can't accept. He said, I can't accept that God either. Now let me tell you the God that I accept. And the man said, well, I can accept that. So there was, when you have a clearer idea, a disciplic succession kind of clarity idea of Krishna, God, the source of everything. Connect with that. And from that place of connecting with the disciplic succession and the understanding of the source of everything, you can look over there at, other ways of looking at the source of everything, and you're okay. Because my mother and father didn't, they weren't Srila Prabhupada. And what my mother and father gave me was, a limited picture. Not a distorted picture, but, limited picture. And I'm grateful to them for what they gave me, but I'm superlatively grateful to what Prabhupada gave me. So I can, I don't have to feel badly my mom and dad didn't teach me what Prabhupada taught me. I can be respectful of what they did. Values and standards of life and everything. Then that's been a great resource for me. And it's part of that spiritual trajectory thing. So by my taking that mercy from Prabhupada, it's been a direct benefit to my family members. Even if they don't really understand who is Krishna. And not really keen to know who is Krishna. They're keen about me. Or the body part at least.
Can we take those values and lessons and making our devotee community a more accepting space where anybody can just go to anyone that they trust and just talk to them about what they're going through rather than being closed off?
Rather than be closed off. Well, expectations that don't match reality is a recipe for frustration. So don't expect what you just described, because it's a recipe for frustration. Expect that Krishna is very kind, and Krishna will send you into your life someone, and it may not be today, it may be tomorrow, but someone who you can share like that with. And it's, it's open, it's not judgmental, and etc., all those good things. Because not everybody's capable of being non-judgmental and just hearing, and because they're going through their stuff. But your responsibility and my responsibility is to be as close as we can an example of Krishna's words in Bhagavad Gita and Prabhupada's explanation of how to live our life according to Krishna's words. And my understanding today is a little dull compared to what Krishna really wants to give. But I have to operate with what I have. That's the acceptance part. But I wish to get closer and closer to be an example of Krishna's Bhagavad Gita teachings. Not just, I know the verse and chapter, but it's how I live my life. And I want to be that in the community. So projecting expectations upon others is a formula for frustration. First be it yourself. And expect that Krishna is kind and someone who you can share things with as openly as you described. That resource is there. Like in a hospital, there are some doctors, but not all the patients know how to do medicine. Don't expect that that's their certification. You get the idea. We all need friends, and there's this, like you described, the qualification of a friend. And that a friend is a very special person in life. Okay. It's 10 o'clock. Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki jai.
Maharaj ki jai.